We're in Walking with Jesus, lesson 35. Tonight, Jesus is going to ordain 12 apostles.
Wow.
And we're going to talk about how to choose qualified leaders. Here's our timeline, and we're just getting down here into the middle part of his second year of ministry. So how to choose qualified leaders. A day will come when I'll bring people to work for New Hope Gospel Ministry. I'll be hiring people to work for New Hope Gospel Ministries, for the Walking with Jesus ministry. And I'm going to want people with training, experience, knowledge of this ministry and what we are seeking to accomplish. I'm going to want people who are loyal, trustworthy, honest, dependable, hardworking, and whose integrity is impeccable. Since New Hope Gospel Ministries is a ministry, I prefer people with Bible knowledge and training in various areas of ministry. Other religious leaders who understand the areas of ministry and how to minister to people would be among my first choices. I believe that their expertise could help me accomplish God's purpose for this ministry very effectively. Now, atheists and inexperienced people need not apply. A strong knowledge of the Bible would be considered very helpful. I would want them to take the Walking with Jesus classes. They either need to complete or be involved in taking the classes so they'll understand what this ministry is about, what we're trying to accomplish, teaching people how to become more like Jesus. Now, I definitely would not want 4 fishermen, including one who is impulsive and often acts like without thinking, and 2 others who are known for brawling.
Yeah, but the one was good. Peter.
They were all good.
Peter was good.
After Jesus got done with them.
That's true. Wow.
But they were
That's way
dubious or they would not be your first picks if you and I were out to recruit 12 people to do what Jesus has recruited these guys to do. Neither would I choose an IRS agent, collections agent, who's collecting for a government that everyone else hates. Or someone who judges me because of where I came from. Or a militia soldier, or a treasurer who steals from the company's funds, and someone who's always questioning or doubting everything I say or want to do. These would not be among my picks. We are in Matthew chapter 5, verse 1a, chapter 10, verse 22 through 4, and chapter 12, verses 16 through 21. Mark, chapter 3, verse 9 to 19, and Luke chapter 6, verses 12 to 14. You'll notice that we've got 3 different sections of Matthew, and the explanation for that is that Matthew did not record the life and teachings of Jesus in chronological order. He kind of picked a topic and he ran with that topic, then he changed another topic, then he changed another topic, and that's kind of how he wrote. Luke is considered the one that was most accurate chronologically in the order of events happened, and so we followed mostly Luke's chronology in our going through the life and teachings of Jesus. Now, it's time to designate 12 of his followers for some specialized training in preparation for being sent out on a mission to establish his church. He did not submit an advertisement to the local newspaper. He did not secure the services of a headhunter or some employment agency, but he seeks the guidance from his Heavenly Father as to who are the kind of men who will be reliable to do what he seeks of them. Let's see about how he goes about this process. Might be interesting. First, you gather likely candidates. Matthew chapter 12, verses 16 to 21, and Mark chapter 3, verses 9 through 12. Because of the crowd, Jesus told his disciples to have a small boat ready for him to keep the people from crowding him. For he had healed many, so that those with diseases were pushing forward to touch him. Whenever the evil spirits saw him, they fell down before him and cried out, "You are the Son of God!" But he warned them not to tell, gave them strict orders not to tell who he was. They didn't need that kind of testimony. This was to fulfill what was spoken through the prophet Isaiah. "Here is my servant whom I have chosen, the one I love in whom I delight. I will put my spirit on him, and he will proclaim justice to the nations. He will not quarrel or cry out. No one will hear his voice in the streets. A bruised reed he will not break. A smoldering wick he will not snuff out, till he leads the justice to the victory. In his name the nations will put their hope." Now this is a prophecy from Isaiah You notice that Matthew is the one that brings this out. That was part of Matthew was writing to the Jews. So he wanted the Jews to see how Jesus was fulfilling all these prophecies. And he brings that to our attention. Well, Jesus has become very popular with the people. He's the best thing that they've heard since John the Baptist a few months ago. And definitely the best thing since the prophets of the Old Testament. Those who can spare some time away from their homes and their jobs are hanging around to hear what Jesus has to say and see what he's going to do. Some are just spectators. Some are serious about building a relationship with him and advancing whatever it is he's doing. Out of these people, Jesus will find several who can be possible candidates for what he is seeking. And you know, this goes with every church in the world today. You have some people, well, I should almost every church. I'll make an exception here in just a minute. But in virtually every church, you're going to have those people that are just die hard. What can I do for God? I want to do more. I want to do more. I want to do more. I want to learn more. I want to be better. I want to improve my life. And then you got people who come in, hey, look at me, I'm coming to church today. I'm a good person because I came to church. And you've got those people who are, hey, well, I've got all my friends here. I'm coming to socialize with my friends. You got maybe a few people that's coming, I'm looking to see who I can find fault with and what I can do to cause trouble. And you got people that are just, I'm bored, I just thought I'd come to church today. You got every spectrum of the planet, even in a small church. You're going to have those who are troublemakers, you're going to have those who are your strongest supporters, you're going to have everything in between. And so, maybe the challenge is, which one are you? But Jesus is looking at these people. Some of the people, hey, I've got some time off. Oh, Jesus is nearby, let's go hear Jesus. You know, we get a special speaker in town or a special music group in town. Sometimes we'll find ways to get over to where they're going to be so we can hear them perform, hear them speak, see what they're going to do. And no different in Jesus' day. Now, some people were real fans of Jesus and they hung out with him a lot. And some were just looking for the free handouts. Some of them were serious about, I like what this guy says. It's like these guys that follow these political candidates around. Quite interesting how we're looking at elections and we're hearing all this news about people running for office on TV right now. And a lot of this is going to apply to selecting who leads our country and who runs in our government. Who do we want to lead us? We want to choose qualified leaders. Now, if I were going to pick 12 people for my ministry, I'd be inclined to go to those who had some training and experience in the field of labor. Jesus didn't. I would see people who shared common backgrounds so they could get along with one another. Jesus didn't. I'd want people who have a degree of understanding about what they are trying to accomplish and who could have already approved themselves as valuable to the team. I mean, what is your job experience? I went to apply for a job many years ago in the automotive field. And I had a Bachelor of Science in Automotive Technology, and I put that on my little job application. And the first question they asked me is, what kind of experience do you have?
Yeah, none.
And so I would say to them, what kind of experience do you have? Jesus didn't. I would not want people who are opposites of each other and be inclined to be in conflict like Matthew and Simon the Zealot. Matthew was a tax collector for the Romans. Simon the Zealot was a zealous to hate the Romans. If he could catch a Roman in a dark alley, he'd slit his throat and walk away and say, I just did the world a favor. And so you can just imagine what Simon thought of Matthew. And here they are on the same team now. Chosen, we're going to find out in just a little bit. But see, Jesus could see deeper than that to build them into a team. Now, I've had the privilege of knowing people who had a gift of discernment. There have been sometimes when I've been somewhat discerning and sometimes when I haven't been discerning enough. But we won't talk about that. But it's interesting, some people do have a nature of being able to look at you, size you up, talk to you just a little bit, and know whether you'd be a good person for the job or somebody you could trust with this or something like that. So Jesus definitely had that gift. I think there's been some times when I've been discerning. There's some times when maybe I haven't been discerning enough. But he can see the deeper inside of us. And so he can see who he can build into a team. Interesting to see who he picked. Oh, here's another thing in picking qualified leaders. Pray. Pray, 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 pray.
Yep, yep.
Matthew 5:1a, Mark 3:13a, and Luke 6:12. Now he saw one of those days when he saw the crowds, he went up on a mountainside to pray, and he spent the night praying to God. There is a mountainside. Actually, this mountainside is northeast of Galilee. I probably should have put the mountainside close to where the Sermon on the Mount was supposed to have taken place, which is about 10, 12 miles west of this location.
Well, you couldn't move them, so.
But this might be close to where Jesus fed the 5,000, somewhere in this area, because we're just really pretty close to the Sea of Galilee, and just it was on a mountainside where he met them. Well, anyway, let's go on. Pray, pray, pray. The purpose for which Jesus is seeking to fill is a very serious project. Think about the church and what would happen if Jesus would have picked the people you and I would have picked. Like I said, I would have gone to the religious leaders and said, okay, I'm starting a church. I need you. How about you? Would you guys submit an application? And I'd go through those applications, but Jesus didn't. The purpose, he needs God's wisdom in picking the right people for the task at hand. Therefore, prior to announcing his purpose and his decision, he needs to be in tune with the Father and have God's discernment regarding who will be the best men for the job. So, Tom?
In all reality, were all those guys all humble? I mean, they really...
No, I wouldn't say necessarily they were humble. I would say Simon the Zealot was probably pretty zealous about his views against the Roman government and wanting to throw them over. Peter, Andrew, James, and John, hey man, we're fishermen. We can catch fish. How many fish do you want? When do you want them? I don't know. Maybe they were humble. Maybe they weren't. We can. Well, Peter got pretty impulsive. We'll find out later on. He'd run off his mouth and then he'd engage his brain after somebody kind of said, "Hey, that wasn't so smart." And so I don't know whether they were humble or not. I can see areas where they might have been. I mean, we're following Jesus, and there'll be an occasion in the future here where they go into a town and the people are rejecting Jesus, and James and John, these two humble guys, do you want us to call down fire from heaven and burn those people? So, no, I don't know how humble they were. I know that they're going to become a little more humble before it gets done. Well, Jesus can't use quitters or troublemakers. He cannot use dishonest or lazy people that will be extremely harmful to his vision. Selfish people will try to take over, will try to take off on their own. Jesus needs people that will respect his authority and work with him. Now, I like to listen to Zig Ziglar back a few years ago. And one of the things I learned from Zig Ziglar is that most employers would much rather have a person that's honest, that's dependable, that gets to work on time, that is loyal to the company, that is respectful, that does not steal, does not badmouth others, does not cause trouble. And even if they're not qualified for the job, or don't know how to do the job, they can teach them how to do the job. But they can't teach them how to be honest and loyal and dependable and punctual and reliable and show up for work every day and do an honest day's work in a day's period of time. And so if we're looking for people to work in our church or in our business, Jesus is looking for people. He's going to train these guys in what they need to know. But he needs guys of enough character that he knows that they will stand tough when the going gets tough. They will not quit when it's hard. They will be so dedicated to him and to the cause that he's training them for. And look where we are today. because of the choices Jesus made. All of the great leaders in the Bible were people of prayer. Even today, those who have the most effective and influential ministries are people who believe and practice a strong prayer time with God. The more you think about where you need God in your life, you need His wisdom, you need His guidance, you need His help, the more you're going to realize you need to pray. I can tell you my prayer life has grown, well, I'd say quite a bit in the last 15, 20 years. And I didn't think I had all that bad of a prayer life even before that. But even in the last 5 years, it's grown more. And it's just, I guess maybe this is not uncommon to human nature, but the older we get, the more we realize we depend on God, the more we realize we need God's guidance and direction in our lives. Maybe the older we get, the more time we spend on our knees or face down or just sitting, talking to God. Hey God, here's where I am, here's where you are, let's talk. And God can value, He can bless time like that. Well, you also want to qualify the called versus calling the qualified. Matthew chapter 10 verses 2 to 4, Mark 3, 13b to 19, and Luke 6 verses 13 and 14. So Luke starts out, when morning came, He called His disciples to Him, and He wanted those He wanted, and they came to Him, and He appointed 12. He chose 12 of them, whom He also designated as apostles, that they might be with Him, and that He might send them out to preach and have authority to drive out demons. These are the names of the 12 apostles. First, Simon, to whom He gave the name Peter, and his brother Andrew, James, the son of Zebedee, and his brother John. He gave them the name Boanerges, which means sons of thunder. Now, we don't know if that was because they were just loud mouths or if they had a little tendency to do a little talking with their fists. But he gave them that name. Andrew, of course, was Peter's brother. Philip and Bartholomew. Matthew and Thomas. Matthew was a tax collector. Interesting, he says that in his gospel. James, the son of Alphaeus. Thaddeus. Simon the Zealot. Simon, who's called the Zealot. Judas, the son of James, which would be the same as Alphaeus, or Thaddeus, I mean. Thaddeus or Judas, one and the same. And Judas Iscariot, the one who would later become a traitor and betray Him. Just a little sidebar here. Judas is the only one that's not a Galilean.
Yeah,
A Galilean Jew. He was from Judea.
Yeah.
All the rest of them were from Galilee.
So maybe he should have picked all Galileans.
Well, now let's see here.
In hindsight.
We'll get a little ahead of ourselves, but if he'd have picked all the Galileans and none of them had turned out to be a traitor and betrayed Him, would he have ever been arrested and taken to the cross and crucified? This is the way it goes. Here is our map. This event, here's Capernaum. The feeding of 5,000 occurred right up in this area right over here. And the Sermon on the Mount occurred right over here. So you see about 10, 12. This mile is 13 miles wide here. So that kind of gives you approximate, about 8 to 10 miles down here to where the place is that they consider to be where He preached the Sermon on the Mount. It's so interesting that from this hillside, you could see the entire Sea of Galilee from one end to another. From over here, you could see the entire Sea of Galilee from one end to another. From Tiberias, you can see all except for maybe this little section here, but basically you can see the whole place. So Jesus could be talking to this crowd, and if He's facing downhill, He's looking out over the sea and sees all that's going on there. If He's facing uphill, they're looking over His shoulder and getting a beautiful view of the Sea of Galilee while they're listening to their Lord, soon-to-be Lord, speak to them. Qualify the called versus calling the qualified. Now, my idea of the qualities of a leader has already been stated. Jesus was able to look at those around Him and see potential that most hiring people would have missed. I wouldn't have thought about these guys for these positions. If you've read the lesson in the book, you see a little bit about who they were and some of their character and some interesting things about them. The religious leaders became hostile to Him because they couldn't control Him. They knew that he knew that, and he chose men who would be open to his instruction and his leading. He selected men who he could train to be committed followers who would eventually die for their faith. Would he have chosen you? I talked this morning about our desire. One of the things we desire is to have power over something. We want to have control of something. Usually that's control of someone. We got all these politicians wanting us to vote for them. They think that they can control us. And that's a whole sidebar. But I've learned over the life, the more you try to control somebody, especially your spouse or a family member, the more they're going to resist you, the more they're going to fight you. They don't like being controlled. And this could go with employees in a lot of job situations. They might comply because they don't want the consequences of getting fired. Some people only obey the law because they don't want to get caught breaking it, whether they agree with it or not. But there is one thing that you can control, and that is your integrity. We talked about that just a minute ago. Jesus would have wanted people who would have been punctual, dependable, reliable, to be there in the tough times, who would stand up when the things are down. And so he's looking at the integrity and the character of these people that he's chosen, not necessarily their religious training and their knowledge of God's Word and that sort of thing. The things that I would be inclined to look at if I were hiring. So, again, the question, would Jesus have chosen you? Is your integrity such that Jesus would say, I want you to be one of my apostles. I want you to follow me. God has a way of seeing potential in you that others would miss. He can see your heart. Now, I can tell you right real quick here that I'm not the best teacher on the life of Jesus that you could ask for. But may not be qualified, but I've been called. And if I've been called, God has qualified me, and lives are being changed by what God is allowing me to do for His kingdom.
And you're available.
And I hope that He's guiding me in doing it, because I want to be a part of the life-changing business. God knows your personality, and He has a job that only you can accomplish. That job may be reaching just one person for Christ. But it may be the only person in the world that person would listen to. You may be the only person in the world that could say the things that would help that person to realize, I need Jesus in my life. You may be providing, if you're in the working world, you provide the best work for your boss and for your customers. You talk the ads about the Maytag repairman or the manufacturing guy. And the Maytag repairman is the loneliest guy in the world because they make such good quality product, theoretically anyhow, that they don't break down. The repairman has nothing to do. He's bored. And so, well, that's the kind of reputation we want. The car dealerships are realizing they got to make better quality cars, or you go buy them from somebody that makes better quality cars. We want something that's reliable, that works. Our hairdryer broke down after what we thought was a premature time, and we had to go get a new hairdryer. We're hoping this one is better made, and it will be reliable for a longer period of time.
Well, we had it about 4 years.
Well, that's not long enough as far as I'm concerned. We want quality, and so as workers, we want to give God our best quality. And as we do that, we'll change our lives, we'll change other people's lives. Hey, your neighbors know where you're going when you leave the house on Sunday morning. You may never get a chance to talk to them, and then again, maybe you will. They see a cross, people are popping white crosses in their yards to say this house is a Christian home. A Christian lives here, popping up all over the United States, and people are realizing, and they're looking, they're noticing, and they notice your character. And so God is choosing us to take His gospel. Isn't it interesting how God picks people to preach the gospel? And He can take people from all walks of life. Nick Vujicic has no arms, no hands, no legs. He's got a stubby little foot on the left-hand side. He preaches the gospel. You should hear that guy talk about Jesus. Johnny Erickson taught it. Broke her neck taking a dive into a pond. It was a little more shallow than she thought it was. She lives in a wheelchair. She depends on somebody else to put her to bed, to wash her, to help clean her up and so forth, and even help feed her. And she sings, she paints cards with her mouth, she's been able to write books,
She's an author.
she speaks. She's not going to let those things get her down. And we could go through an old number list of other people who would say this person's not qualified. David Raines has cerebral palsy. And he can't talk very well because he's got your cerebral palsy. But he loved Jesus with a passion. And you should hear that guy preach the gospel. It would change your heart.
David Rain.
Don't let handicaps, don't let the devil, don't let the world, don't let anybody or anything hold you down. God has a purpose for you, and if He's called you to do it, He's qualified you to do it, whether the world would say you're qualified or not. Because God can see in your heart. He can see what the rest of the world misses. You are ordained and qualified by God for that job. Give it the same dedication, give it the same commitment and the effort that the apostles gave. You don't know. Maybe that person you talk to will be a next great doctor or a next great president, and a great one instead of a one we don't think so great. Maybe he'll be a successful businessman. Maybe he'll be a preacher. Maybe he'll be the next Billy Graham or who's some of those others from
Franklin.
ancient years that have changed the world. Maybe they'll do something to start a great awakening. Maybe it'll
D.L.
cause a
Moody.
revival across the nation.
D.L. Moody and
A D.L. Moody or a Charles Spurgeon or back even further back than that. We can think of lots of others that could do that. But the bottom line is, God, what have you called me to do? Help me to do it with my heart, soul, and passion. Because I love you, because you loved me. Give it the same dedication you see the apostles give. Well, our conclusion is this. You are the candidate that God has chosen. You may not get to hang out with Jesus like the 12 did, but you can hang out with Jesus in your personal life, in your prayer, in your Bible reading, in your fellowship in church, and other things that you do that help you to connect with God. Listening to Christian music, listening to other preachers, trying to learn more about God when you can. Pray for this guidance. God, help me to see what I need to change in myself to be better qualified to serve you. Do your best as an apostle, one sent on a mission for Christ. Now, I've talked with other Walking with Jesus groups, and I like to say the apostle with a capital A is generally used to address the 12. You'll notice in the Walking with Jesus lessons, I call them apostles almost from here on out, although they're still disciples, they're still learners of Jesus. But I did it that way just because I hope that you will consider that you can be an apostle. Not in the same way as the 12 that were there with Jesus and saw Him on this earth, but the word apostle means one sent on a mission. And I pray that you will see that God has called you and sending you on a mission. And in that regard, you will answer His call and serve Him with your heart and soul and mind and spirit. Well, next week, Jesus is going to tell us how we can be truly happy. Some of us have been looking for that. He's going to embark on one of the greatest recorded monologue in His ministry. So we'll get ready to be blessed as we prepare for that. Well, let's break up into some discussion groups and have some study questions, or discussion questions.